Welcome to Wednesday Night Live, the class that puts some peek into your week. If you're looking for a congregation that's out to help others, let me suggest you look at this one. We're packing the pulpit, which means we're bringing in food to give out to the poor and those who are in need. So if you're looking for a congregation that's active, this is the one. This week, on Sunday morning, we're beginning the book of Romans. So it's a good time to start right up at the beginning. This is the book that several commentators have said it is the thrust of everything else in the New Testament. And Sunday night special in that Sunday night we get together in a service just for those who are concerned about the COVID. So we will be doing that Sunday night. But tonight we're going to finish the book of Esther, hopefully. I think we can get there. This is a class where we learn from each other. So please make comments, ask questions, do whatever you can do to teach each other and to teach me. We do it all the way around. Would you pray with me, please? Father, thank you for this time together and for everyone who's come out. We ask that those who are on the video feed enjoy the class and learn a lot about you. Thank you for Jesus, and we pray that you help us to be your people. Help me get out of the way that people can see you. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. All righty. Last week, we had the study where Haman is so upset that Mordecai, he's so upset with Mordecai that he had gallows built to hang him. Anybody remember why? Sue.
Haman felt like that since he was second to the king, that every time he went by, that everyone should bow down to him. And Mordecai did not do that, and that ticked him off.
Okay, that's a good summation. It ticked him off. Okay. What happened that changed his plans?
He called somebody in to read to him. Who was it? I don't know who. But they read to him the history books.
Yeah, the Chronicles. Very good.
And they told about his assassination attempt on his life. And he remembered that he had never rewarded the person who aided him to stop that.
Thank you, Bertha. That's right. Two people who were doorkeepers were going to try to assassinate Xerxes. And it was Mordecai who went and said, these two guys are planning to do you in. So he can't sleep, and of all things, when you read history, it's tough. It'll put you to sleep. But it comes to the part that says, Mordecai saved your life. And he said, what do we do to honor Mordecai? And they said, nothing. So they called Haman in and they said, how would you reward somebody that you really wanted to make feel special? And he said, I'd have him ride on a horse that the king rode on. I'd have him sit on, I'd have him with the royal robe that the king wore. And I'd have him go through the city and exclaim, "This is how the king treats the men who have served him well." And King Xerxes says, "Fine, do it for Mordecai the Jew." So he has to lead him through town saying, "Here's the man, this is how the king rewards those who have served him well." The man he's planning to kill. All right. What other plans did Haman have to punish Mordecai? Chuck?
Kill all the Jews.
Yeah. He's going to annihilate the...
Annihilate them.
Yeah. And it's all because he wouldn't kneel down. And he got enraged, and he learned who Mordecai's people were. And he decides what we're going to do is we're going to kill them all. We're just going to go through the kingdom and get rid of all the Jewish people. Okay. How did Mordecai decide he should try to end it, planning of having all his countrymen annihilated? Now, y'all, there's just a good number here, so speak up. Any answer is a good answer. Chuck?
He'd have his niece petition Xerxes to spare them.
Yeah. Esther's going to go to the king, and she's going, this is his plan, and she's going to plead for the Jews. But Esther's got some reservations. Anybody remember the reservations?
To speak before you show up?
Yeah, well, he's got this gold scepter, and when he sees you, if he holds it up, you get to go in and kiss the scepter, and then he'll talk with you. Very good. Why did he think this would work? Mordecai comes up with this, and this is going to work?
Wife.
A man often favors his wife. Okay, you two are agreeing. That can be dangerous for me. Sue?
Not only that, but Mordecai felt like that there was a reason why Esther, out of all the women in the Persian Empire, had been chosen to be queen. She got to be part of that competition, but she had to be selected in the first place, but then part of that competition, and then she was selected. And Mordecai felt like there was a reason for that she had risen to that.
Okay, good. Good, very good. How did Esther react first? Chuck?
You want me to do what?
Okay. I'll take that. What happens if the king doesn't hold out his golden scepter?
She dies.
She's dead. And he hasn't called her for 30 days. So she's scared. And Mordecai answers her with these words, "Don't think that you are in the king's house and you alone of all Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's families will perish. And who knows? But that you have come to the royal position for such a time as this. Okay. So what does she decide to do? So,
She decides that she will go along, and she will, even if it means her dying, gonna die one way or the other. If he doesn't want her to see her and she's killed, she's tried. So she asked for prayers and asked the Jewish people to fast.
okay, I think I went too far. How did the king respond? This is all review. You should have it. Okay.
He welcomed her up and responded to half of mine is yours, and go ahead and speak your piece,
Thank you,
basically.
Shaq. When he comes in, he promises half the kingdom to her. And she asks, well, the thing I really want, I want to throw a banquet for you and Haman. And that's where we left off. Because the first time she goes in at the end of the banquet, he says, what do you want? Up to half my kingdom. She says, I want to throw you another banquet. Tonight, the rest of the story. This wasn't original with me. Go back. Not going to go back. Will Mordecai be hanged? Will the Jews be annihilated? Will Esther back out? You want to ask a close friend for a big favor. How would you go about it?
Is the picture a hint?
What?
Is the picture a hint? Pray.
Is the picture a hint?
Well, yeah, it's a hint. Y'all don't ask anybody for favors? Chuck? You just asked?
That's kind of my personality.
Is that the businessman way of doing it?
It's direct.
That's the engineering way of doing it.
That's the engineering way of doing it. Shad?
I think the salesman way of doing it would be make sure the circumstance around is maybe private, to not put them on the spot. Maybe plead your case, why you need help, something like that,
Okay, that's
to try to get the help.
good. I haven't heard this side.
I guess you kind of need to make sure who you're going to ask is actually in a position to do something to help.
Okay, who's ever asking needs to be in a position to do it. Okay, very good. All right. Sue.
Oh, I had a couple others that you can cry. You can sometimes that
Works on your husband, doesn't it?
it works on some people. But what I usually do is I go up and put my arm around them and I say, Bertha. and she knows that I've got some sad story to tell her about what I need. So.
Does it work every time, Bertha?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sue usually does it as she goes, what are you doing now? Nothing, I have something for you.
Yes, I've done that too.
She does that at home, too. Okay. While they or his family were talking, the king's attendants come and hastily bring Haman to the dinner that Esther has prepared. Remember, she asked for the second dinner. And they're drinking wine. Now, if you know a sign of the times, when does the drinking wine come in? End of the dinner. So that they pretty well feasted and eaten the food, and now they're washing it down with a little wine. And the king says, Queen Esther, what's your petition? It'll be given to you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom. And it will be granted, whatever the request. Queen Esther answers, if I've found favor, O king, and it pleases your majesty, grant me my life. That's heavy. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation. If we merely been sold as a male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. I wonder what he feels.
Sobered up the party.
Excuse me?
I imagine that sobered up the party.
It sobered up the party, probably.
Wouldn't that have infuriated him, since he may not have known what was going on, and somebody else in his kingdom was making decisions?
I think so.
Wife.
Yeah, threatening. Yeah, that's bad news with me too. You can talk to me, but don't talk about my wife to me. You know, I will defend her. Chuck.
I'm suspicious at this point. Haman may be just as shocked as Xerxes is, because he doesn't know she's a Jew.
Yeah, that was one of the things Mordecai told her. Don't tell him you're a Jew. And she didn't. Sue.
Well, and it just says that the king got up and left the room. So you don't know whether he's upset finding out that she is a Jew because she hasn't told him. I mean, there's all those possibilities, but Haman knows he's in trouble.
Thing where she's mentioned that it is about being Jewish.
You're right.
Verse 4.
Verse 4. For my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation. If we'd been just sold male and female slaves, I'd have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king.
No one knew.
Could still be ignorant.
But Haman knows who he has set for annihilation. I think the king knows who he set for annihilation. He let Haman do it. You don't decide to annihilate, I don't know how many 100,000 people in somebody's kingdom and the king not know anything about it, I don't think. But the king didn't care.
Okay, very good. There's a final twist that guarantees Haman's demise. Get the picture? Just as the king's returning from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was reclining. And the king exclaimed, "Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house?" And as soon as the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. You don't mess with the queen when you're in the king's house. Chuck.
5, 6, and 7. Verses 5, 6, and 7, didn't you?
I probably did.
Yeah. 6 and 7, maybe.
I got 6 and 7. I don't have 5.
Yeah, that's where the king asked him, "Who is this man?"
Yeah.
And Esther says, "Haman."
Yeah.
Okay. So Haman's done, and then a guy named Harbona, I actually had to listen to that to see how it was. He's a eunuch who attends the women in the king's palace. And he said, there's a set of gallows that Haman put there that are 75 feet high. And the king says, hang him on his own gallows. So they hang Haman on the gallows that he prepared for Mordecai, and the king's fury subsided. Are they in good shape now? They got rid of the bad guy. Are they in good shape? Chuck?
No.
Knew that was coming. The one-word answer, the way I said it.
It's also interesting, the NIV you have there is different than the NIV here.
Oh, okay.
Because basically they turned him into a shish kebab. They impaled him.
Impaled is one of the possible translations. And it's one of the ways that they did punish some people depending on the civilization they were in. The impaling led to the cross, which led to the crucifixion, which is interesting. They're still in trouble because Mordecai had the king's signet ring. He had decided that all the Jews were going to die, and he signed it into law and put the king's seal on it. It became part of the law of the Medes and Persians. Now, what does that mean? Chuck?
Can't be changed.
Can't be changed. Can't take anything out of the law of the Medes and Persians. So as Haman dies, he gives his estate to Queen Esther. And Mordecai comes into the presence, for Esther had told him how he was related to her, and the king gives him the signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and presented it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. So she's got to ask the king one more thing to do. And that would be, you can read it, it's okay. So,
Like Chuck was saying, the Jews still are going to be annihilated, and you were saying that was the law. So she has to ask you know, there's nothing that supposedly can be done, but she asked King if maybe there is something that can be done to save her people, to save her people.
Okay? But they don't have it yet. So they decide to write another decree in the name, in behalf of the Jews, as it seems best to Mordecai, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. So how is Mordecai involved in saving the Jews?
He gets to write a decree that will turn around the fate of the Jews.
Okay, very good. So what did he write?
Huh?
Sir?
He had the scribes write down that the people, the Jewish people, could defend themselves when the day that they were supposed to be annihilated came. Gave them the right to defend themselves. And it made everyone throughout the kingdom know that that was going to happen.
Okay, very good. Chuck?
Like Sue said, I think one of the most important factors was certainly they could defend themselves, but the fact that he said, and they had the authority and they are justified if they kill you defending themselves, and nothing's going to happen to them. And that's going to weigh on somebody's people's minds to say, whoa, wait a minute. This could be a real catastrophe for me because the Jews now have the authority to defend themselves, and there will be no consequences of them defending themselves. That's a pretty big deterrent to being attacked.
Sure is. What's the reputation of the Jews? Fierce fighters. If they've got the weapons and everything, they're fierce fighters.
Yeah. By this time, they had been in captivity for a long time. Most of them had gone back. It had been a long time since they'd been a fighting army.
You're right. You're right on. So the king's edict grants the Jews in every city the right to assemble. What would be the right to assemble? Why is that important? Well, this isn't hard. Y'all on this side are going to fight them on that side. Because they're not allowed to assemble more than they've got, but you are.
Is this where the Jews outnumber the people?
Is this where what?
The Jews outnumbered the other people?
Well, they didn't outnumber everybody, but they're given a right that the other people don't have. That's the right to assemble. They have the right to protect themselves. So if they feel threatened, they have the right to do whatever is necessary to protect themselves. They have the right to destroy, to king, and to kill. Now that's important. Several commentators say what happened was that Xerxes gave them weapons. and any armed force of any nationality that might attack them and their women and children, and they could plunder the property of their enemies. So they could take everything. And this was the 13th day of the 12th month of Adar. And a copy of the edict is sent to every province and made known to the people of every nation, so that the Jews would be ready to avenge themselves on their enemies. Do you have a comment? Okay? So they're putting this into full motion. And Mordecai is left with the king's presence, wearing royal garments of blue and white and a large crown of gold and a purple robe of fine linen. And Susa has a joyous celebration for the Jews. It was a time of happiness, joy, and gladness. Okay, they started partying hardy. And they've got, why would they have reason to party hardy? Sue?
Well, up until this time, they were looking forward to being annihilated. So this kind of changes things, at least.
Okay.
If you know that you're going to be killed 2 weeks from now, and everybody that's related to you that's a Jew's going to be killed, and you find out that there's been a change of course, you'd be happy. You'd want to celebrate.
Okay, good. And instead of Haman wearing the crown and the purple and the blue and white, now Mordecai is. So they know it's a Jewish man who is second in charge. And in every province, in every city, wherever the edict of the king went, there was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating. And many people of other nationalities became Jews, because fear of the Jews had seized them. So now you've got this mass conversion from one nationality to the Jewish nationality. You remember the first edict? Way back in chapter 4? When he decides he's going to kill the Jews, and how there's weeping and wailing, and they dress in sackcloth and ashes. That's a few weeks back. And Esther was sent to reply to Mordecai, and she says, I'm going to the king, but I'm asking you not to eat or drink for 3 days. And I want you to pray and to fast. And then I'll go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. What's the difference? Sue?
They were all in it together. In that time and now, they're all in it together. It's that camaraderie. But they all were mourning together. They were all fasting and praying together. It was a unity. And now they're united in killing their enemy.
Chuck?
It's more than once, God has taken a bad situation and made it result in benefit for the Jews. Joseph comes to mind. Bad situation is selling your brother into slavery. But it was for something in the future that they would need very badly, otherwise they would have died in famine. So if you look, you can really see God, because what is the likelihood this just kind of happened? Not very high.
About the book of Esther is it doesn't directly talk God's involvement, so you're left to, I don't know if the right word would be infer, but look for the evidence as opposed to it being provided directly to you.
Thank you, Bart. Bertha!
Was that right to protect yourself for that one day or from this day forward?
Hang on and I'll catch up to you. You ask these advanced questions, I'm sorry. So how does the salvation come about? We talked about God being there. And yet Esther is a book where God is never mentioned. And yet you can see some of his handiwork there. Okay. The Jews assemble in the cities and the provinces of King Xerxes to attack those seeking their destruction. And no one could stand against them. And the people of the other nationalities were afraid of them. And all of the nobles of the provinces, the satraps and governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews because fear of Mordecai had seized them. Now you got to do this number 2. And so everybody in the government decides we're going to get on the same train they're on. Chuck, you were going to say?
That one where Esther says, for 3 days, go and pray to God. So God is mentioned. And this is how God answered the prayers of those that prayed in Susa, because it was just those in Susa, is he provided deliverance from a situation which most people would look at and says, I don't know how you can recover from this.
I agree with you.
Yeah, what I know Bart's talking about, it doesn't use the word God, it just says go pray. And yeah, so, but
Yeah.
I think that, they're Jews, you're going to assume that they're praying to Jehovah God.
Pretty good assumption.
And, Mordecai had raised her up, so, I think he had taught her, and they knew about praying and fasting, and so there's all those indications. But I thought that the one thing that to me was the turning point that this is God working is when the king wakes up in the middle of the night and can't sleep. And what do they bring out to read to him but something about Mordecai? That's where the whole story turns.
Yeah.
That's a God thing.
Yeah.
Any group that attaches to Jews were killed. And Haman's 10 sons are hanged on the gallows, and another 500 men who hated the Jews were killed. But the Jews don't plunder their belongings. Permission had been given, and she said, you have one more day to defend yourselves. And one more day, 75,000 people die. Now, there's a holiday named Purim that celebrates this victory that God gave the Jews. It's kind of neat to watch. They don't let the name Haman be heard. They make all kinds of noise and rattlers and shout and bang on things so nobody can hear the name Haman. Every time it happens. Every time Mordecai's mentioned, they're cheering. The same for Esther. They cheer her on. And it's really some production, if you ever see it. Okay. Mordecai, Purim, pure is of a gamble. It's like a dice that they throw. And they have pictures of the various people that come up. And the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes, near and far, have them celebrate annually the 14th and 15th day of the month of Adar as the time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and the month that their sorrow was turned into joy and their mourning into a day of celebration. And he wrote them to observe the days of feasting and joy and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So it was one of those days, you look at what they're doing, they have feasting, but they give presents of food and they take care of the poor. And that's how they celebrate the day. This comes from the book Character Under Pressure. When God does something in our midst, it's important to remember to celebrate. As we recollect his goodness, our faith is strengthened, and so is our ability to face the next struggle. Next week, we're going to look at another woman. This will probably be a one-week study. It will be in 1 Samuel 25. Her name is Abigail. So come back, and she's an astonishing woman. So come back and see Abigail. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And those of you online, I appreciate you tuning in. And hopefully you'll come back next week as we look at Abigail. Y'all have a pleasant evening.